All right, hey guys. I wanted to talk about World Cup today. So, I have some very different thoughts to, I'd say, a lot of other people on what World Cup means for Overwatch and the premise of it. So, at the very start, before you talk about anything competitive about it, it's literally it's a fan show, really. Like, sure, there is some competition, but the prize pool is so insignificant for a lot of the top winning teams that it doesn't mean anything to them. They get a couple $1,000s, they get a paid trip, but that's their normal thing. People aren't necessarily fan voted anymore, but you vote for a community leader and then he votes for it. So it isn't necessarily like, yes, there is some tryouts. Yes, it is so, somewhat competitive for some of these teams, but at the same time, it's not the same thing as a pro team. Like, it's not pro teams entering a tournament. Some of these, the competitiveness is actually turned down because some of them is, like, I'd say the Brazil team, it's basically like a full contenders team with their contenders coach, and then I think it was just one other person who was in there. But it's like a full structure versus some of these teams where some of their teams are half contenders players, half not contenders players. Some of them are majority owl players, some contenders players, and some of them don't even have coaches that are like in the scene anymore for them. So it's like a big mix of things where it's like it doesn't necessarily all add up to be the most competitive tournament. Also ties into the patches. So the patches has been a big thing for this tournament and for other tournaments is you can't play a group stage and each group stage be considered equal if each group stage is being played on a different patch because it's not the same game. We've seen they're playing completely different team comps versus each other. Like, this stage has seen the most goats with Zenyatta that any other one has seen. Then the last stage there was the most dive, and then there was also the Winston bug, and then the group stage before there was the Hammond bug. So the patches make a big difference to decide how competitive it is, and also they need to play on the same patch. I know they want to like it's spread out so far, but you have teams qualifying on different patches, and then they're probably going to play at BlizzCon on a different patch again, and it's not consistent. That just completely kills the competitive nature of it. When I think of any other esport, StarCraft, they're all playing on the same patch to qualify. They play on the same patch whenever they're at BlizzCon. CS:GO, all the qualifiers, and then the major, all on the same patch, the same map pool. We already have so many other variables in this game with hero choice, team's preference for heroes, the map pool's constantly changing, which people prefer to play, the different map types. So there's so many like variables already swapping around that when you play on different patches, you just like add one notch in the machine that just completely can change the outcome of things where there could probably be a better team on another patch that didn't qualify because they were playing on a patch that didn't favor them. So I don't like it. The good thing about it is there's a platform for new players. There's players that are unknown that really haven't gotten any attempt to really show themselves off. Like in Contenders, Contenders doesn't really get that many viewers. So if you're like a lower end Contenders player for like a European team, North American team, not so much North America, but like South America, I guess is the better term, but you can really like have a platform to show yourself off. Like I'd say the Brazil team probably showed like some like really big things. The Chinese team as well. They're like trying to get scouted into Owl. There's a lot of European players that as soon as some of the tier 1 European players come from contenders teams into the Owl teams, that they have their chance to move up as well. So the platform for new players to actually show themselves off is actually really good. So in that fact it is good because you also get to play like in a somewhat pro environment. It's not the same as like the Overwatch League or something else, but you get to play at a reasonably high level. You get to scrim against good teams, and these national teams also get to like scrim against what would be pro pickup teams or whatever that have some structure. So it is good for them to progress. They do get to play on a LAN environment. There isn't really any LANs in Overwatch right now. There's the Overwatch League, which is a daily or whatever you want to say. Like they just play at a studio every day. And then there's like basically the contenders finals. But if you're not in those two, then there's basically no other chance for you to play on LAN besides like small little LANs here and there. But those aren't significant enough, and those don't get enough viewership, so this is really the only chance you have. So it's like once a year you get to show yourself off, but at the same time, it's not the most competitive. Yes, it does get viewers. The patches are weird. Sometimes players aren't practicing at the same level as they would if they were on a pro team because you could say national pride, but if you're already an owl, is there the motivation to put in 14-hour days that some contenders player might put in? You could say no. You could say they won't really push themselves to the edge because some of them already have job security, where the World Cup before maybe it did, but now some of them, I don't think they need to try as hard. Sure, they might look good, but they might not be practicing and like pushing it to that next level that you might expect from a competition like this, where I just keep checking off marks where it's not going to be the best competition just because it's got all these problems with it, which I see as pretty massive, where some person might say, oh, this is the best team in the Netherlands versus this is the best team in UK, when I'd say, probably not. Like, there's a little bit of nepotism here. There's a little bit of maybe not all the best players got their chance to get onto these teams. So, yes, it's probably pretty good teams. Are they practicing at the best level? Do they have enough staff around to help them? Are they playing on a patch that has bugs on it? Well, I don't know. I can't grade that as like the highest level of play. So I don't rate it as highly as other people do. And I think it's still a good thing overall where we get something that's like fan exposure, so fans get to have and enjoy a good competition. It's not taken the most seriously. Everyone gets to be involved, so there's a lot of places that are going to get involved. Young talent gets to get viewed as well. Not only young players, but like managers get to work, coaches that wouldn't otherwise get good opportunities, the staff as well. So the staff working the events, so all the managers and different people who are working like at Blizzard or maybe even for the smaller companies, the casters as well get more exposure. So it's overall, I'd say, a good thing. It's not the most competitive and it's not the best thing to like take conclusions from and basically say this is like a definitive reason why this country is the best. So take it with a grain of salt. It's still a good thing, but it's definitely not the best thing in the world. It's not the most competitive Overwatch we've ever seen.